Well, I guess I was supposed to let you do that first. Sorry.
Kevin Keating,
Present.
Marta Teranzi,
Present.
Patty Jensen,
Present.
Marissa Shepherd.
Present. All right. Jackson County Library Services acknowledges that its libraries are located within the traditional lands of the Shasta, Takelma, and Lagawa people, whose descendants are now identified as members of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians and Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, as well as the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians and Modoc Nation, who were forced to relocate to Oklahoma. We take this moment to recognize the indigenous peoples whose traditional lands are where residents of Jackson County live today. JCLS is committed to fostering understanding, deep respect, and honor for indigenous people, and we encourage you to learn more about the land you reside on. For more information, go to jcls.org/land. So, welcome all to our annual budget committee, the first. Oh, all right. So okay. So I'm going to turn this over to Heather, who's our budget officer, and she will get us rolling. And then we will get the public input down the agenda a ways. Turn your mic.
Gonna give her a thumbs up and get the presentation on screen. We were still admitting some people. All right. Welcome to the fiscal year 26-27 budget committee meeting. It's a fitting day for our budget meeting as today is National Special Districts Day. I know. I think it must be new. I'm Heather Scott, I'm Finance Manager and Budget Officer for Jackson County Library District's fiscal year 26-27 budget. I've worked with the leadership team to put together the proposed budget, which we present to you this afternoon. Together, we'll share background on how the budget was prepared, significant areas of revenue and expenditures, and recommendation for approval. So first, I'd like to introduce our budget committee and the budget preparation team members. So the budget committee consists of our 5 board members, Susan Kiefer, Marta Teranzi, Patty Jensen, Marissa Barrientos Shepherd, and Kevin Keating, as well as 5 appointed community members, Kathy DeWolf, Alicia Van Riggs, Dave Canner, David Matthew, and Doug Townsend. And we missed doing the roll call on those members. So if I could just have Yoli grab that real quick, I'd appreciate it.
David Matthew. Doug Townsend.
I'm here.
Kathy DeWolf. I might ruin the last name. Sorry. You said Dave Canner.
Here.
Alicia Van Riggs.
Here.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, the DeWolf here. I didn't.
She's not here.
She's not
She
here.
let me know she wasn't going to be here. Okay, the budget preparation team. Obviously, a lot of the staff are involved in budgeting and department heads and team members that are involved with spending, but the majority of the compilation and presentation was put together by our leadership team, which includes Frank Phillips, our interim library director, who isn't here today. He had a pre-planned vacation, so he's on his way out of the country, but he was very involved in the process. Myself, we have Joan Behill, our assistant director of public services, Kelda Vath, our Assistant Director of Support Services, Bryn Fogarty, our Human Resources Manager, Josh Letzinger, our Community Engagement Manager, and Yoli Diaz, our Executive Assistant. So this is our org chart, summarized version, and it represents the organizational structure. And you can see under the directory there is the leadership team I just mentioned, as well as our foundation director, Jenny Auer. And then the budget is presented in 4 key function areas. And this includes public services, led by Joan, there on the left side. Our support services, led by Kelda, which is kind of in the middle. Our community engagement team led by Josh to the right, and then the rest of it falls under our administrative services. So that includes finance, HR, the director, and the foundation. Okay, so we'll go over the process for today's meeting. First, we'll appoint our budget committee chairperson. Then you'll receive the budget message and presentation from our team. Then we'll have time for discussion between the committee members, and then we'll have time to accept public comment, and then hopefully we'll approve the budget. So the first thing we need to do is appoint the chairperson. So I'd like to, in history, we've had the board president as our chairperson for the budget committee. And so I would suggest that we make a motion to appoint Susan Kiefer as our chairperson for the budget committee.
I move that we appoint Susan as our budget committee chairperson.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. So that is that. Where's that? I'm done.
We don't need a vote, we just need consensus for that one, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Perfect.
I
Yeah.
think that's,
Okay. So the purpose of our 26-27 budget is to provide a financial plan of resources and expenditures for the 26-27 plan year. And the 3 bullet points listed here are requirements by Oregon statute. And they'll be included in the budget. Cost of key function areas, changes from previous year, and changes to financial policy or status, if any. So like I said, these are in the narrative that you received in your agenda packet, as well as what's posted publicly. And we will highlight those in today's presentation. Okay, this outline is from the Oregon Department of Revenue, and it helps show the entire budget process at a glimpse. The red arrow shows where we are at currently in the process. And so from here, if we need an additional committee meeting on May 13th, if not, the next step will be to hold the budget hearing at the board meeting on May 20th, where we will approve the tax levy and formally adopt the budget. And next, we'd like to review some of the accomplishments that we've had in the current fiscal year. That's Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. So you'll notice what I talk about is some mostly focused on community engagement. I would just want to acknowledge all of the incredible accomplishments that we had throughout the system. And I could take 100 slides to go through that, but since we only have the one, I selfishly kind of emphasize some of the work that we did here. So that's my precursor. So part of the reason we're focusing on this too is the community engagement was the effort or the response to a new organizational restructure. And that's my position. And it incorporates marketing, technology, education, outreach, Spanish language services into one department. This move saw a more cohesive application of engagement efforts, both internally and externally. Marketing requests became more accessible to branches to highlight the specific resources and programs. We surpassed 2,500 followers on our Instagram, 5,000 followers on our Facebook, and 1,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel. I mentioned that because of it's a very kind of concrete way to show how much we've expanded into our community. Engagement continued through targeted partner development. We expanded our bilingual program offerings from 23 to 71, with over doubled attendance from previous years. Collaborations with Listo, Rogue Valley Mall, and Brick Kids Concerts increased our reach in our outreach to childcare. Expanding on our efforts from previous years, the Baby's First Books program reached 1,500 families. with 1,650 bags delivered to hospitals in the area. As of April 2026, Education Services had over 7,000 interactions with our K through 12 audience and delivered story walks to parks through key partnerships with Parks and Recreation. The grant-supported Rural Entrepreneur in Residence program was launched to strengthen the Applegate Valley's business ecosystem. This initiative formalized peer mentoring and provided targeted resources for local entrepreneurs to foster sustainable economic growth in a uniquely rural context. Technology education developed new programming offering cybersecurity and end-of-life planning classes to residents, averaging over 40 attendees per session. At-home services increased the number of in-person deliveries by 8% through effective marketing of the program while utilizing 5 new volunteers to aid in delivery. These accomplishments highlight how JCLS engages with patrons at all stages of life in all geographic areas. And just recently, as many of you know, Rogue Reads hosted New York Times bestselling author Shelby Van Pelt and saw its largest attendance in program history, serving over 500 people at the Criterion Theater in Medford. The event itself epitomized the combined efforts across the system to merge programming, collection, development, outreach, marketing, partnership involvement, and all aspects of our system to accomplish a shared vision. These changes appear to have a positive impact on patron interaction with library services and facilities. Total circulation, library visits, and new card holders are all on target to surpass last year's numbers.
Speaking of numbers, so a little statistical interlude. By no means is this a full statistical report, just some highlights. These figures that you see on the screen are updated as of the end of March, 9 months of fiscal year data. So physical collection is on target. We are just holding steady with where we were last year, which is, I think, impressive. It's down 0.3%, but I'm calling that holding steady. Digital items are up. Digital circulation continues to grow and increase year over year. So that's amazing. Public computer sessions, again, holding steady with which is somewhat, again, we've talked about this in various board meetings, a little different than what a lot of other libraries are seeing. Our computer usage is holding pretty steady, whereas it's diminishing in other libraries across the country. But for us, still a very viable and popular service offering. Branch visits are up 6.7% over the same period last year, which is fabulous. And new card holders are also up. So these are some of our key performance indicators. Yes, please.
I'm just curious how you measure branch visits.
We have a door count system. It's a door count system that tracks folks as they come in the buildings.
Okay, thank you.
So, yep.
Did not know that.
That's gathered. Okay. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, now back to the budget. Using the district's, well, actually, let me step back. So first we'll talk about revenue projections for 26-27. So using the district's historical data and reviewing Jackson County's revenue proposal, we determined an assessed value increase of 4.37%, with a projected 94% collection rate, which is based on the district's and the county's historical data both. We're projecting $16.3 million in current year property tax revenues. The remaining $1.221 million in revenues is expected to be received from a combination of prior year property tax collections, interest income, charges for printing, copying, and fines, and E-rate reimbursements for our internet costs. In addition to the projected operating revenues, we plan to transfer interest earnings from both the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund and Grants Fund into the general fund. And this is, since 2022, we've been required to allocate our interest income between the funds based on their fund balances, but it's not necessary to leave that interest income in those funds. And so we transfer it back into the general fund for operational use. And we expect that to be about $208,000 this year. Okay, now we'll talk about expenditures. Total expenses by category or requirement is broken down in this chart. Personnel services is at 11.365 million, or 63% of the budgeted expenses. It would be 65% without the contingency and the transfers included in the total. And this is in line with other service-oriented organizations as a percentage of total expenses. Materials and services is at 6.095 million, or 33% of expenses. And that includes about 1.57 million for library materials, which is 9% of our overall budget. The total operating budget is sitting at approximately 17.4 million. The biggest piece of that is our personnel cost. Personnel includes this year a 2.5% COLA increase. The board approved a 2.5% COLA increase at the April 2026 board meeting. The budget includes a one-step salary increase, which is 1.5%. So that brings the total salary increase to 4% for the year. This also includes a hefty health insurance premium increase that we received. It was 9% this year. In the past few years, we've been really fortunate to receive a very low rate increase of about 1% to 2%. And it finally caught up with us this year. And so we have a 9% increase, which we actually feel fortunate for, because after talking to our agent, most of her clients were seeing closer to a 15% increase, with some crazy ones up in the 40% range. So we felt that even though it hit us this year, we were very in line and lucky to be at 9%, but it definitely hit the budget. Materials and services were reviewed closely and adjusted to present a balanced budget. In addition to the operating expenses, we've included $500,000 in contingency and $250,000 transfer back into the capital fund at year end.
All right. COLA. As part of the annual budget process, I conduct a study to determine the cost of living adjustment, otherwise known as the COLA. A COLA is an increase in wages to counteract inflation, which we've seen a lot of lately. Based on the board-approved COLA methodology and using our comparable library systems recently identified by the Data and Analytics Coordinator, I'm recommending fiscal year 2027 COLA of 2.5%, which the board did adopt during the April board meeting. It should be noted that initial analysis of the collected data resulted in a 2.6% average COLA amongst our comparisons. To align with our total anticipated budgeted personnel costs, I lowered the recommendation to 2.5%, which is very close and has a slightly lower budget impact. The difference on our COLA increase versus the data received is very minimal, showing a negative 0.17% difference. For our step increases here, the same list of comparable library systems and other regional organizations were used to gather data on increases. The average wage increase is showing 3.23%. It is recommended to give another one-step increase this year, which is 1.5%. Step increases directly impact attracting quality talent and help reduce turnover. This is rewarding our staff for their hard work, but still being conservative to help balance the budget moving forward. This year, the difference is coming in at negative 1.73%.
Can you please repeat that sentence? Last one.
The
We're
very-
coming in at negative 1.73.
The difference, can you back it up, Joey? So this year, the difference is coming in at a negative 1.73%. So when you put everything together, the difference in the average, what we are recommending versus the average of our comparisons.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and for COLA and step increase combined, It shows that although our increases are coming in lower than our comparables, we are only negative 0.79% lower than all others, which puts us in good position moving forward. Fair and competitive compensation is a pillar of goal 4 in the strategic plan, nurture the library's infrastructure.
Where we should be looking on this particular thing, and where is our library?
So our library is down below where the blue
I see.
row
Right.
is.
That makes sense. Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Are the comparables that you're using here in Southern Oregon? I assume you're not going up into the Willamette Valley for any of you.
So it's a combination. That's a great question. So our comparables are a number of library systems across the country that our data and analytics coordinator has identified. So they have similar cost of living, they have similar population. The systems themselves are similar in structure and in size and in budget. There was a dozen or more criteria that she used to identify that list. In addition, you'll see that there are local cities and counties that we did use, as well as some educational institutions that are in our region, because those are our competitors. That is where either we attract most of our talent from or the opposite way.
Okay.
Okay. This chart shows the changes in FTEs over the past 5 years. This is a direct result of our strategic plan to increase access to the library through increasing our hours of operation. A long-time request of our public, achieved over 2 phases, December 1st, 2022 at Medford and Ashland, and system-wide April 10th, 2023. A detailed analysis of operating hours was performed as part of the process in concluding the current strategic plan to assess whether further adjustments to operating were needed. It was found that operating hours and related staff increased at a rate higher than planned at 37% over the previous baseline. Proposed adjustments bring the operating hours to a 33% increase over fiscal year 2022's baseline, a current reduction of current weekly service hours of 15 hours. And in order to make future operating budgets sustainable and to accommodate this year's current budget, it was necessary to adjust the personnel budget back down to 65% of the general fund.
All right, so materials and services is one of the major areas of expenditures. Library materials are at approximately 1.5 million. That includes both general and grant funds. Just under 57% of that goes to our physical collection, books, DVDs, the library of things, video games, things like that. And about a little over 43% is going towards our digital collection.
Can I just ask a real quick one about the facilities? Does that include landscaping?
It does not.
Okay, so that's an additional.
Right.
Somewhere else. Okay.
Not through the facilities and maintenance, not through Jackson County anymore. No, we have a separate contract with ProLawn. It's less than these big ones, so I didn't mention it, but yes, we do have a separate landscaping contract for all 15 branches. But back to janitorial. Yeah. So that is the biggest one that we have. So coming in this year at $680,000. We have a longstanding contract with Pathway Enterprises. They do overnight cleaning at all of our locations. They also provide us with day porter services at Medford and Ashland, and then special periodic cleanings like the carpets or the windows and other special cleanings as needed. This year, based on anticipated adjustments to operating hours, along with some minor service reductions, it came in at an 8% decrease this year, which I think really helped us out. Security services at the Medford branch is another big contract that we cover. It's had a really positive impact on the user experience both for patrons and for staff here in Medford. Again, related to anticipated operating hours adjustments, costs are slightly reduced for FY27, coming in at $270,000. Utilities are another cost that is necessary, and they are up. And both, I know from my personal home, and I'm sure you all do too, it affects us here at the library as well. So that's materials and services. And the next slide. These are some of the capital improvements that we're looking to do in the fiscal year 2026-27. So again, through our relationship with Jackson County Facilities Maintenance, we collaborate and prioritize capital improvements and maintenance projects for each fiscal year. The major projects that you see here are planned for FY27. JCLD has really done a great job in working with the county to plan these regular maintenance things so that we stay on top of it. For example, we try and do at least 1 or 2 carpet replacements a year. Our buildings are now coming on 20 years old, thereabouts, so it's needed. We have a roof recoating here at Medford coming up, a roof replacement at Phoenix, and Phoenix parking lot improvements. Now, the parking lot improvement project was originally part of the Phoenix Pollinator Garden, which is currently underway and set to conclude before the end of this current fiscal year. But we actually separated it out into a separate project, and given the timeline for things, it's going to push to next fiscal year. So that's what we're planning for the coming year.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
Yeah, these capital improvement projects are part of your maintenance payments, or is this in addition to your maintenance?
In addition to.
Thank you.
All right. The Miscellaneous Grants Fund allows us to track restricted funds. Our financial policy states that we will use restricted funds first when possible. We appreciate the generous support from our friends and from the foundation. And we also receive approximately $40,000 from the state through the Ready to Read grant to support early literacy programs, and $140,000 from the Holbert Trust to support services for youth ages 6 to 16 and mature learners or adults. Anticipated expenditures include support for library programs, including Rogue Reads and the summer reading program. All right, this chart provides another way to view our ending fund balances. We're continuing to put funds into the capital improvement fund to renovate and upgrade our branches and support maintenance ongoing in the future. As you can see, in fiscal years 19 and 20, we did not have miscellaneous grants fund. This fund was created in fiscal year 2021 to separate out and better track restricted funds to the district, including friends and foundation donations and restricted funds such as the Holbert Trust. The district is in a healthy financial position to start out the year. We anticipate the beginning general fund balance to be approximately $7 million, along with the beginning capital improvement fund balance of $3 million and a grants fund balance of another $3 million. Both the capital improvement fund and the grants fund are projected to decrease during the 26-27 year. We've chosen to allocate more expenditures into those funds that provide the district the authority to use those funds if needed. Our goal is to use grants funds as they are given. And sometimes we receive more revenues than anticipated. So when we budget, we leave enough room in expenditures to use those funds if we receive them, but we don't expend them if we don't receive them. Let's see. We have earmarked $357,000 in capital outlay from the capital improvement fund, as well as $740,000 in materials and services, which is mostly maintenance from this fund in the proposal. This also includes transfers out to the general fund for the interest income that I mentioned earlier. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, sorry. Can I ask a question? Can
Yeah.
you go back to that other slide? I just want to make sure I understand. It's not that we didn't start getting grant funding, the green, in 2020.
It was part of,
it used to be part of the blue, and then
it used to be part of operating, correct?
Okay.
And then, yeah. So
thank you so much.
Another question?
Mm-hmm.
The projected June 30th balances,
Mhm.
that is if the proposed budget gets adopted, correct?
So for 2026 projected, just as because we haven't finished the year yet. So that's based on our budgeted numbers. And then projected is based on using the proposed budget. for
Which we'll be
2020.
discussing. Okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize. This is as big as I could make this. So I had to summarize some information. So this is our 5-year forecasting worksheet, and it includes the prior year budget, fiscal year 27 proposed budget, and the next 5 years of projected budgets based on generalized assumptions. The version on the screen is a summarized version of the attachment that you were provided in your agenda, which includes the detailed line items for operating expenditures. As you can see, the ending fund balance is still healthy through the end of 2027. And just to point that out, that is the kind of 4 lines up from the bottom there, ending fund balance. Thank you. It continues to remain above the policy reserve amount of 4 months of operating budget expenditures through the end of the 5 years. We will update this forecast after the current fiscal year end and continue analyzing where we can increase future income and or reduce future expenditures. This has been a useful tool for us to monitor and adjust as necessary. And for example, last year, this forecast, we projected negative or to go below our 4 months of operating expenditures in fiscal year 26, and that allowed us to make adjustments so that that didn't happen. We use this in the beginning of the budgeting process to see how much we need to adjust, not only for the current year, but how that impacts the 5 years going forward. All right. And that leads us to the conclusion of our presentation of the budget message. And now we can open it up for committee discussion.
Do any members of the, maybe you want to shrink that so that we can see if members on this, in the waiting room or in the gallery have questions also. Does anyone have questions for our?
I do.
Go ahead.
Heather, I apologize. I have a question I didn't give you in advance. But I noticed that the budget for under materials and services in the support services section of the budget, the total budget for library materials is roughly the same from 1 year to the next. However, there's a huge increase in what's just described as library materials other.
Yeah.
What is other?
Well, let me start. So in the narrative, there's actually a section that explains the changes from prior year to this year. And so it's very briefly identified there, but it's a reclassification of the amount that we pay for processing fees. So when we order books from the distributors, they charge us for doing things like labeling and covers and such. And that had always been included in the total library materials line. And we decided we'd like to start tracking that on a separate line item to better track how it's moving forward. So it's really not, it's not a new thing. It's just breaking it out.
Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah.
my next question is not really a budget question, it's more of an administrative question, but in the library of things, are those things purchased or donated?
Mostly they are purchased. Yes.
Okay. And which line item are those included in? The reason I ask is because every time I've gone online and looked at the library of things, every single item is checked out.
I know.
There's never anything available, which tells me it's an extremely popular program
It is.
that perhaps should have more resources put into it.
So one of the major changes was the library materials to be a category where the library of things was allocated. And it was approximately, I think, 14,000 this past year, but that got moved into library materials physical. So in the new fiscal year, we got 2 big chunks. We got physical and we got digital. And so all of the physical materials are under physical and all the digital are there. And so then what we did is we utilized the other code, that other place that was now vacated. We're not using that fund anymore. And it's going to be allocated for, like, as Heather mentioned, the cataloging and processing fees for the vast majority of our physical books. and media for that matter, all come with catalog records and with the pre-processing on them so that they arrive almost shelf ready.
But maybe we need to, for the library of things in particular, do we have a specific, I don't think we have a specific budget that gets assessed as we go, right?
It's just included.
Well,
in physical
so
materials.
yeah, so our collection development manager is in charge of that materials budget. And so she's going to take that big number for physical and digital and then allocate it among many, 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 many funds.
Sure.
Children's, teen materials, all kinds of things. And library of things is one of those.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also like to ask a question. I actually put this to Heather in advance. So, and that's the decrease in the professional development, which in the course of my career, I always prioritized. So I was a little disturbed to see a decrease. Can you explain that, please?
Sure. Yeah. And if I remember correctly, it was about 50,000 in the current year's budget, and we reduced it to 35. No, I think, let me take this. 40. Yeah.
60.
Some of that is for the board though. So of the total, 10 was for board development and the rest of it was for staff. And what I can tell you is that this current fiscal year, we're looking at ending the year at about 35,000 and not 50. So we're going to be coming in under budget. And the other big piece of that is that we are between strategic plans. So our current strategic plan ends in June 2026. We're in the middle of building a roadmap to lead us into the next one. We don't have a director in place at this point. And so we would really like to align our professional development goals along with the next strategic plan. And so we didn't feel like it was right to make any major changes to that at this point. And so we decided to go with the same amount we used this year so it doesn't mean that we'll be pulling back. It just means it'll be similar to this year. And then when we get the new strategic plan, we can talk about how much we'd like to allocate to that with the new director.
Any other questions? Questions from anyone in the virtual gallery? No? All right.
Well, was it necessary to cut the hours on Sunday? Or, I mean, I guess my question is, it'd be nice to see a breakdown, kind of branch by branch, what it costs to operate.
Okay. So yes, the administrative team has spent an enormous amount of time on assessing the need to adjust hours to facilitate a sustainable budget going forward. And as Joan mentioned in her section, she explained that there was analysis done on the hours that were increased in previous years as part of the strategic plan, and that went over what the plan was. And so we overstaffed, basically over-opened, and had so much staff costs that it was going to take us down if we didn't start addressing it soon. So the first thought was to look at hours. We looked at many, many different ways of changing that. So there were different days looked at. We have lots of data to fall back on to show the busiest and quietest times. And so so that was Sunday was the day that made sense. And we also added hours. I'll let Kelda talk about that.
Right. So it was twofold, really. Number one, as part of the strategic plan, taking a look at the hours expansion that we did in 2022 and 2023, and to see, hey, how did that go? What worked? What didn't? What are the usage patterns? What impact did it have? And so some of the changes that are proposed for the hours adjustments are just that. We're reallocating hours to different days, to different times, to better maximize usage and make it better. The other component was the budgetary sustainability of the district, and we really looked at all different ways to do our best to minimize negative impact, to be honest. So the Sunday hours it's a big deal, but it's also 2 of our locations out of 15. Anyway, trying really hard to do the best we can with what we're trying to do to keep sustainable moving forward. So
And those hours are used less than other hours, other days.
It
Was part of your
That's part of it. I mean,
examination.
right.
Other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I think you've done a pretty good job in especially in making sure that we're set for the next 5 years. So I'm not happy, of course, about closing, more hours or, dropping FTEs, but I think overall it's a really good budget. I do have just a couple of minor questions that I should have asked to you earlier. Landscaping service that I asked about earlier is up. And I had thought that we just had no?
Well, it's up because last year was partial. So yeah,
Okay, so it's 155 to 190 just because of the amount of time.
they took over more area and it was a partial year last year.
Right. It started mid-year, and it is a 3-year contract. So we are locked in
So we should see the exact same number next year.
Correct.
Okay, great. And then any reason why facility furnishing expense doubled on that? It's line item 6082.
I'm sorry, 608. Oh, 60 on the 5-year forecast.
I have a theory. I see that the facility furnishing expense has a 34,000 grant in the support services table. So is it because we got a larger grant to help us with that?
Yes, 7 will be coming. Yeah.
Do you know who that grant was from?
I think there's plans for, hold on, let me step back here. This is just the general fund that you're looking at here for facility furnishing 6082. So that does not include any grants. We do have the foundation in the grants fund. There is some minor charges for facility furnishing in there. This, I believe, is just because there's planned replacement of certain furnishings, which I believe there's some tables, if that's correct.
Right. So our priorities for furnishings in the coming year are really safety. And so we have a few meeting room table replacements, making sure that they are safe and able for folks to move in the buildings, when folks, so we're prioritizing safety and replacement of, meeting room tables are one. We have some accessible furniture going into some public spaces is another one. And replacing really worn, high use, high visibility furnishings at a couple of our locations is another one. And then on demand, as needed, ergonomic improvements for staff. That's really what we're focusing on in terms of furnishing in the coming year.
And just to add to that, this last year was a fairly low, the current year, 50,000 was somewhat of a low amount, and we've kept that down because we had this facilities improvement plan and we're holding back on a lot of things, thinking that would be coming up in the near future, and that's now been pushed out. And so there's just some things that needed to be taken care of that we've been waiting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Matthew,
yes.
You have a question?
I was trying to lower my hand. Just wanted to clarify then also in the general fund, then the increase in consultant fees is independent of the decision to have to reduce salaries. And I guess I asked from the perspective are the services provided services that are rendered through the consultant fee is going to replace any of the duties performed by some of the salary cuts?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to address that. So the increase, first of all, the increase in those consultant fees relates to the interim executive director's contract. So there's about 77,000 of it that applies to next year. We may not use all of that. That is what's left on the contract. And so we budgeted for that amount, as well as some funds for a search firm for the new director. I can tell you that the analysis of staff costs, personnel costs, was done independently of that. We made sure to assess future years, assuming we would have the director in place. And so we have a placeholder for a salary in the future 5 years. And this year was looked at outside of that cost. So yes, that was.
Understandably. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any further Questions?
Question in the chat, and actually I had the same question, but can you give more information on the reduction of staff's hours? Will there be layoffs?
Josh, you want this one or you want me to? You want me to? Okay. At this time, just being cognizant of being a public meeting, other than what's in the budget narrative, we're not ready to provide that detail. As a board, we've communicated some of this information to you. We do have a plan in place. I think it's already out there. We've discussed the hours impact is a change on Sundays and then adding some hours on different days. The net FTE impact that's in the narrative is 12 positions, but I would like to clarify that it's 12 positions comparing last year to this year's total FTE. It doesn't mean 12 positions are going away. I think we've netted that to approximately, well, I don't know, can you say that's about
It's a little over 8.
a little over 8.
Yeah.
So some of the other ones were just not being filled. So
What is your normal turnover rate in the course of a year?
Bryn might be able to answer that.
Anywhere from 3.5% to 6%, depending if you're looking at it on a quarterly or a monthly basis. We're very low comparative to other public entities.
That is very low, but 6%, if you hit that would be about 8 positions.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Marta?
Sure, Marta.
So there is a possibility that this particular decrease in the cumulative FTE will be reached through a combination of attrition and individual hour reductions. It's a combination
of attrition. Not the 8. I don't.
We always
Turnover.
look at attrition. Every time there's a vacancy, we discuss it on several levels. Is it a position that we still need? Does it need to be filled at the same amount of hours? Can it be filled at less hours? Can the duties go to somebody else? I mean, we have a full circle conversation about every single vacancy. So that is always our practice and has been for the past few years.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was.
Any others? All right. That moves us then to the opportunity for public input. And I have 2 names on this sheet anyway. So Megan, if you would like to start. Yes, you please, if you would. You have 3 minutes and Kevin will be keeping time.
Testing.
It works.
My name is Megan Thompson, and I'm a librarian with the
Would
district.
you move your phone away from the mic so that?
Yeah, I'll turn it. My name is Megan Thompson, and I'm a librarian with the district, a constituent of the library district, a library patron, and an elected member to the union bargaining team. My comments are my own. I have several serious concerns about the proposed 26-27 fiscal year budget that deserve an explanation before this committee moves forward. On page 23 of the proposal, the telecom wide area network cost has jumped from $250,000 to $418,900, a 72% increase with no explanation provided. This may be tied to the expansion of digital materials, which raises its own question. Why are we growing our digital library operation when we could use that money to save jobs? And those library jobs matter. 12 FTEs is not a small number in Jackson County, where jobs are scarce and housing, food, and fuel costs keep rising. Could any of you survive losing your income, your housing? Did you know there are staff who use food banks? That they're on OHP because they can't afford the district's health insurance plan? Before cutting a single position, this committee should be asking harder questions about the budget itself. The capital improvement fund transfer of $250,000 could be paused. The operating contingency, budgeted at $500,000, has gone completely unspent for at least 6 consecutive fiscal years, not once drawn on. What specific emergency is it sized to address? Reducing it to $250,000 frees up another $250,000 without touching one service hour. Additional line items demand explanation. Landscaping went from $37,000 to $190,000. Computers and technology went from $45,000 to $177,000. Library materials went from $19,000 to $142,000. Together, that's over $400,000 in increases that aren't adequately explained in this narrative. I'm a degreed librarian, and I've been a formally elected board member for a school district in California. I've made tough budget calls. What concerns me most is that this board has allowed deficits in the general fund to carry over since fiscal year 2023, the year we expanded hours district-wide that admin said we could afford. We clearly couldn't then, and we still can't. I will conclude with this. Errors in budget should not be fixed on the backs of those who make this library run. Yeah.
All right. Erica Ruth.
My name is Erica, and I'm a library associate at the Talent Library, speaking as a patron and community member today. We are here because of individuals who made choices over time that created this budget problem the library is now facing. However, those who made those choices that caused this problem are not the people who are potentially facing the greatest impact, burden, and highest percentage of your projected budget cuts, which are your public service workers. This doesn't seem right, equitable, or fair. Our actions and our choices are based on our beliefs and our values. There are choices, obviously, that have to be made with this budget deficit, but they are not inherent. They can still be shaped and made or changed. Nothing in this budget decision today is inevitable yet or set in stone. Nothing just is what it is here. It is what we make it. It is what you make it. Who and what do you value most? What will your choices reflect? The heart of the library is the people we serve. There is no library without the people, our patrons, and the public service workers who serve our patrons, who see them, help them each day, are also the public face and public heart of the library, where the presence, connection, community is made. It is where the heart of the library magic happens, in these human-to-human, face-to-face daily connections. I ask that you hold in mind the people who your choices and decisions would affect, and not make choices based on abstractions and numbers and spreadsheets, but instead in conscious awareness and care of the human costs of your choices on your workers and the impact your choices could have. Every choice you make that cuts a job or reduces hours or benefits to an unlivable, unworkable degree reflects a person and their life and livelihood and economic security, as well as access for many to health benefits and life-needed ongoing medical treatments and care. Also, please take a hard look at all the unnecessaries and extras and pet projects and things the library doesn't really need that could be trimmed back. I'm sure everyone can think of certain things. Trim from those unnecessaries first before trimming people, and if cuts do need to be made, make them more equitable across all hierarchies of position levels, and not mainly just falling disproportionately onto your public service workers who had no part in the poor choices that created this budget mess in the first place. Thank you.
All right. Do we have anyone on the virtual board that wants to speak? All right.
Did you see the other chat that was posted? It says, will staff hour reductions result in loss of health benefits?
We generally do not answer questions raised by public comments. However, we do have time for additional committee discussion of the budget, which in theory could deal with some of the issues raised. I can't see the chat, so I can tell you for sure that the people who have put together this budget proposal have in fact spent many hours looking at all the options for building a budget that is sustainable for this library district. We're currently operating 15 libraries scattered over a large geographic county. And we haven't published anything about what positions may or may not be cut, but they wouldn't necessarily fall all on public services. Yeah, in fact, I doubt very much if that's the case. So we can certainly continue to discuss the issues in the budget and places where people think we should add or subtract dollars. Heather?
I don't want to address the comments, but there are a couple of things that came up that could be pointed out that I think as budget committee that I maybe should have highlighted. So there is the telecom wide area network amount that did significantly increase. That is offset by the income up in the top for the restricted grant revenue. We receive an E-rate rebate for that. And so the actual cost is closer to $50,000, I believe, total. So it did go up from last year because we got a new E-rate reimbursement. But the cost does not affect us. It's washed out by the rebate that we get.
The federal E-rate program provides a 90% subsidy.
Mm-hmm.
And we have spent lots of time and energy making sure that we qualify for the E-rate subsidy and that we don't do anything that jeopardizes our ability to receive this additional funding through the federal budget.
Right. It's the way it appears.
We have to break it out.
Accounting, the way that
some of that is just about the way it shows up on the spreadsheets. Kevin?
Totally get that. I'm just curious, like, are we receiving as a library system more services for the fact that we've doubled our budget, even though it is,
for the E-rate?
Yeah.
For our WAN services?
For specifically telecom?
Yes.
wide area.
So for this coming fiscal year, yes, indeed. We are doing a switch replacement and upgrade, which is part of the category 2. So it's all lumped into the same bucket there. But for this coming fiscal year, there is an additional cost in addition to the regular internet services that we get. We are doing an upgrade of all the switches across the district, which is actually going to increase our capacity throughout. And but again, the E-rate goes for multiple years. And so switch replacement is going to be handled in FY27. So that number should change next year because it will just be the internet services.
Thank you.
And then just one other comment, just to clarify that we balance the budget not considering contingency and transfers. And so there's the contingency fund is an emergency fund that we would come to the board and ask for funds to use if we needed, which we did use this year. So when we're considering balancing, we're not considering $500,000 in contingency in determining how much staff costs. It's not part of that equation.
One of the big pluses that I see in this budget, while it's hard to reduce the budget by as much as we're doing that this year, our being willing to take the hit this year has allowed the team to build a budget forecast for 5 years that will still bring us a balanced budget. So instead of sort of trimming nickel and diming over time, the decision I think has been made to try to get us to a sustainable budget this year that will then allow us to keep the libraries sustainable over the next 5 years. And given the state of things out there in the big world, trying to plan out more than 5 years seems like kind of magical thinking, but trying to get us into a balanced budget, sustainable state for 5 years seems like a pretty good accomplishment to me.
Thank you. Yeah. And we did comb through all expenses, just so you know, and not nickel and diming, but we definitely looked at all areas. And I would like to note that part of the hours change decision, there's other impacts and things like janitorial costs and security and utilities and such. And so it was not just there, it's a combined across the budget effect. It's not just in personnel costs. So that definitely helped make that decision.
Marta.
Thank you. So the proposed budget and the scenario that you're giving us, or we are looking at today, something just changed on the screen. There is no phased reduction of hours over, say, the next 2 years or 3 years that gets us to that comfortably sustainable and a balanced, sustainable position in 5 years. There is no phased, gradual downshift in hours. Is that correct?
Correct. We looked at many scenarios, including that. And for one reason, for the items we just discussed, like the savings and security and janitorial and all those other items that are affected with a day closing, the phasing didn't make enough impact to make it work.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. The next item on the agenda is possible action, which would involve either approving this budget or scheduling a second budget meeting, which is currently on the calendar for 1 week from today at 3:30. And we could do that if there's some reason to think that we would be in a different position or have different information between now and next week. And Heather's
I guess
looking at me like I could be doing something else.
Sorry, I had it in order here. So I guess the next would be a motion to approve the budget, and then make those scheduled decisions afterwards. Yeah.
I'd be willing to make a motion to approve the budget as proposed, including the maximum tax rate of 60 cents per thousand.
Okay, thank you. We've had a motion to approve the budget, and it's been seconded by You're right. Oh, that is. Oh, Dave Kenner made the motion and Kevin Keating has seconded it. Is there discussion? Marta.
I have had a chance to get a small preview of what we're looking at. And this is a really difficult and challenging decision. I have worked in the public sector for the last 11 years. I have seen another large public employer go through phases and cycles. And I don't believe I will have a new information or additional information by next Wednesday. The narrative that accompanied the figures before us today and the information that has come up since the last time we approved the budget, just about a year ago, this is going to be informing the really hard decision today. Thank you.
Great. Other comments? Are we ready for the question? Do we need a roll call for this? All right. Right. So approving this motion will then forward this decision from the budget committee that says the committee thinks this is an appropriate budget to be submitted, and the board will then be faced with approval or disapproval at its next regularly scheduled board meeting, which is May 21st. 20th. Okay. Sorry. So, okay. All in favor on the budget committee? All in favor of approving this motion, please raise your hand. Marissa, okay. Any opposed? All right. It appears to me that the motion carries. So we will forward this decision to the board for its action on at the next board meeting. And I would like to thank you all, both the administrative team who did all this work, get us to a sustainable budget, and the budget committee for your careful consideration and thought and helping us get to a sustainable place for our library system.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
And you have last words?
I know, yes, if I may.
Okay.
I just know that this is Doug Townsend's last meeting, and I just wanted to thank him from myself and representing the board. And thanks for your time spent on the committee. And thank you also to Dave and Alicia for being here, as well as Dave. So, thank you.
All right. And before we do this again, there might be more budget committee members that cycle on and off. I'm not sure what the schedule on that is, but we will deal with that as we move forward. So, hearing nothing, seeing no hands raised, and I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much for your consideration and participation.